Garrett Jones, what's up, baby?
What's going on? Abe Maynard, good to see
Dude,
you, man.
it's been a minute. I mean, the last
Been
time
too
that
long.
I spoke to you, I think we were both fully employed by Equinox, and now it's a year and a half later, a pandemic, and we're both out completely independent. Talk to me about that, man.
Crazy. Honestly, it's been a blessing in disguise, I think, because I mean, Equinox is great. And one thing I do miss about it was seeing you guys like learning so much from trainers like you and all the other guys that were there. We had like 40 great trainers when I
Yeah.
first started, and the community was amazing. But once the pandemic hit, you kind of have to figure out, okay, how am I going to pay rent? And so that just ended up leading me to a private business, and it's been amazing since, honestly. So no regrets there at all. But
We, I mean, you always struck me like as someone, for example, I would do like these little workshops with when new trainers would come on, I would sit down and we would go over something, anything from like how to strategize your business to attain new clients, whatever. And I felt like you and JT, who I'm also doing an episode with later this week, like you guys were always just super present, super attentive, no like skin off your back. You guys were just there, present, and like ready and eager to learn. I thought that was so awesome. So it was no surprise when I saw that like you went out and did your own thing at all. It made total sense. When that's like, when the whole pandemic thing was going on and like literally like work was closed. I mean, we went in one day, we were able to train. We went in next day and there was nowhere to go into.
nothing. Yeah.
What were those things going through your head? Like, how do you just like bootstrap and be like, you know what? I'm going to leave everything I know and I'm just going to do this thing.
I was kind of excited when it all happened. It was like it was an exciting change of pace,
Yeah.
and the fact that we were all in the same position,
Yeah.
it just brought me some comfort knowing that I wasn't the only one that's going to be like having to figure it out.
Right.
So when it first happened, I was just kind of like, all right, so what's going to happen? Are we going to not be able to leave our houses for like ever? I don't know what's up. And then when things started to settle in, like a week or two in, it was like, okay, this could be for the long run. So I actually had a friend who worked at Equinox, or who worked out at Equinox,
Yeah.
who is a health like nutrition coach. And she had been kind of like mentoring me. She's a little bit older than me, and she was mentoring me on how to like run a successful business. And I was just picking her brain on what she was doing with her clients. And at that point, she was like, people are going to need someone to help them virtually. So she started sending me her clients, her nutrition clients, to like get workouts. And she would pay me like $100 a session. She would like say, okay, I want you to make a video for this person, and here's $100 for this 3-minute video. And I was like, whoa, like this is
Like
really a
I can make a
blessing.
lot of 3-minute videos.
Right. So that kept me afloat for the first like month. And then after that, she was right. People needed a place to be able to get their fitness in. So people just started reaching out to me, and like people that I used to work with at Equinox, or just word of mouth through people that I met at Equinox. And just kept going from there kind of. And working out outside actually helped a lot too with
Sure.
just being in the park. People see you and they're like, hey, how much do you charge? Let's start working together. Literally, like one of the first few weeks I was outside, there was a woman who just rode up on her bike, was like, hey, are you a trainer? I was like, yep. Can you train me 3 times a week? I was like, yep. And she was one of my favorite people now. Like, and so it just kept happening like that. So it's been quite the blessing, honestly.
What role did fear play in all of that?
I got a little bit scared at first, not knowing like, okay, I have really no virtual client. I had like 1 or 2 virtual clients at the time. And I was like, all right, this is not going to pay the rent. But I just trusted that everything was going to work out. And that's kind of how I've been for my whole life. And so the fear played very little factor, I think, just because I felt like in my heart that things were going to work out just fine. And they did. So I'm just grateful.
I'm always interested when people have that attitude, because that's not something I feel like is innate in people. Like I'm very much the same way. I'm more of an optimist, yeah, but more of like an optimist, and I want to put gusto behind it. Like, sure, I'll think that things are going to work out, but I also know that at the end of the day, you got to like roll your sleeves up and make it happen. But
For sure.
I don't know if that was from just watching my dad work and things that my mom and dad instilled in me as a kid. Where do you feel like that kind of, they're like, no, I'm gonna figure this out. And no other thoughts coming into your head, fear not even being a factor. Where did that come from? And how do you like nurture that through business, through life, with clients, everything?
Definitely started from my mom.
Mhm.
And I feel like she raised 6 kids under a 3-bedroom house roof, and we had like nothing. So there
Jeez.
was times where we didn't have food to eat. We didn't have hot water to take showers. Our dryer was broken like most of the time. I don't know why the dryer kept breaking, but it was just like stuff like that. It's like always that, you
Like
know?
the one thing
So,
she wouldn't fix.
right. And so like, we just didn't have much growing up, but we ended up fine. You know, I felt blessed to be able to have that experience and be able to know that even though when things do get bad, things can still end up fine. So I don't know if anything that I could go through now could be much worse than some of the things that I've already been through.
Yeah.
So that's just the way I've seen life from here, from a young age, I think. And I think also playing a lot of sports, like I've been on some really good teams,
Mhm.
and I've been on some really, really bad teams. Like my
That was the
basketball
Equinox team. No, just kidding.
no, like my basketball team in high school, I started playing varsity in my sophomore year.
Yeah.
And that year, all of our seniors and half of our juniors quit because they didn't like the coach.
Yeah.
So it was basically just like sophomores and a couple of juniors and a lot of freshmen. We won 3 games that first year out of 24, I think. And then the next year we won 2. And then my senior year, we won 1 game. And
Damn.
then the year after that, they went to like states. Like my little brother was on the team. They went to states. It was just a complete flip. But just being on that team and still having so much fun, even though we were doing so bad, and still loving the game so much, it kind of taught me that, you know, there's much more to working hard than just winning all the time. It's just the process of working hard and wanting to be there and the passion for it that really matters. And I've kind of taken that into everything that I do now. Like sometimes, you know, especially with personal training, there's going to be fluctuations. Like people go on vacation, people come back, like your sessions are real low, but there's always going to be a chance for you to get them higher. So as long as there's that opportunity for you to work to get them higher, you still have a chance. Like nothing is like, there's always that possibility that you can come back and be better. So that's just the way I've seen life since like high school-ish.
Sometimes it feels like your life experience is just, it's the same things happening over and over, but just on scales that have more consequences. Like yeah, and your attitude and your mindset are kind of the thing that everything boils down to that. And then depending on how you view the world and your outlook, it sets you up to either handle something positively and move forward, or get completely derailed down and out and then go on that track forever. And it can be, you know, losing 80% of your basketball games in a season, or it can be having the rug ripped out from under you at your job that you went into a day before, where all of a sudden it's not there anymore. And I always think, like, for us, I feel like this industry was really interesting place to be when the pandemic happened, because not only were we in Santa Monica, which is like the hub for fitness. I mean, in LA, which is like the hub for fitness in the country. And then on the West Side, I don't think there's not more people running around with their shirts off outside 24/7, just living that lifestyle. And it's an in-person business. It is face-to-face 100%. So when that happened, it was so nuts. Like, you had to have a positive attitude about it.
Yeah.
When did you go ahead?
I was going to say, yeah, I think being positive helps, but a couple books that have really stuck with me that one I read more recently, like in the last year, the other I read like 4 years ago, and I'm currently reading again right now, is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and then It Takes What It Takes by Trevor Moawad. And in the 7 Habits, the main thing that it talks about is being able to dictate your reaction to things, because things are always going to happen to us. But if
Yeah.
you can dictate your reaction, you are in control of that moment, and then you can make the decision to, do whatever you need to do to have the best results in that moment. And instead of letting the external factors play in on your emotions, and you turn into a victim of the situation rather than the person in control. And it takes what it takes. It talks a lot about mindset and how we talk to ourselves, and not always being positive but being realistic. So more neutral thinking than negative thinking always works. Positive thinking might not always work, but neutral thinking is probably the best in most situations. So you can look at the situation objectively and then decide what decision you want to make from there without any irrational thoughts.
It sounds like somewhat of like a stoic approach to things, where you just recognize things for what they are. Because if you always ride the peaks and valleys, then you make emotional reactions or hasty decisions too early or too late or whatever. When you take it as is, then you have the best opportunity to make the best choice for the desired outcome. Do you find yourself, have you read your whole life, like constantly reading motivational type books, or did you get to a place where those became of interest to you? Like, how do you end up reading those books, for example? Because I feel like they're common, right? You hear those titles a lot, but they also resonate with people for specific reasons.
Yeah. I feel like my mindset really shifted when I read the Four Agreements when I was fitness manager in Boston. One of my coworkers, he was a front desk worker, brought the book over to me. And he's like, yo, read this paragraph. And I read the paragraph. I was like, this is what's in my mind. Like, this is just like laid out way more clearly than what's going on in my mind. But this is kind of like, it resonated. So read the whole book, and I feel like it changed my life, and in ways that definitely made me see the world very differently, and the way I saw myself and the way I saw other people, and just being able to look at things a lot more objectively after reading that book. And then once you read that book, obviously I've like wanted to tell everyone to read it. So it's like, you gotta read this book, you gotta read this book. And then people that resonated with it probably have read similar books to it. And since I never read before that, I would just get so many different book recommendations. And from there, I was hooked. Like, as soon as I got a second book recommendation, which was The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, which I only read once, and I feel like I should read again, because a lot of stuff really stuck with me, just being able to add value to other people's lives. And all of this stuff is really, it goes very well with personal training. So
For sure.
that's why I was kind of just reading and reading and reading, but you just keep getting more and more recommendations. And then I couldn't stop reading from there.
Are you a like books on tape kind of person, or do you like to actually physically read it? Because sometimes I feel like when I'm doing the actual book, it can just take me forever to get through it, or I'll only read it at night, and then I'm falling asleep every time I read the book. Whereas the books on tape, you can kind of like always be jamming through something when you're driving. How do you get through them?
So I like to read the physical books, but just like you said, you got to find the right time to do it, because before bed, I'm only reading like 2-3 pages before my eyes start to fall. But I used to have like a really long commute to work, like half hour there, half hour back. Even going to Equinox, I used to ride the bus. It was like half hour, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour. So on those commutes is when I would get most of my reading done. But now, like, I'll usually have one book on Audible for when I'm like driving, or if I want to listen to a podcast, I'll listen on Audible. I'll listen in the car. And then if I have a break throughout the day, I try to make sure I fit in like 20 to 30 minutes of reading whenever I can. But it's definitely not as much physical book as I used to. Now it's mostly just Audible.
Yeah, it's a great medium to be able to get through a lot of stuff, and be able to sometimes you just hearing the people talk through the story. Sometimes it can be beneficial to hear a different voice. Sometimes the voice itself is so bad. Like I was listening to this one book this time, and this dude's voice it like pissed me off so much I didn't even want to listen to any of the content in the book. And I didn't expect it to be that distracting, but like, I don't know. It is what it is.
I've had books like that.
Did you feel like when you decide you want to become a personal trainer, you studied kinesiology in your undergraduate. You were an athlete your entire life. It seems to be very commonplace that you have ex-athletes coming back to fitness and pursuing a career in this. Where did you feel like your career would be at this many years involved?
It's funny because I always wanted to be a personal trainer from probably my junior year in high school, but I didn't really know what that involved. I wanted to work out every day and help other people do like the types of workouts that I wanted to do because I just love to work out. It's like play to me. It's like being out at recess. So when I first was thinking about going to college, and I really didn't know if I was going to go to college or where I wanted to go or anything until like the very last minute, my senior year. And I thought athletic training was personal training. I had no idea the difference. So I went into school thinking, okay, I'm going to be an athletic trainer,
like a
personal
physio
trainer. Right. And I loved all my kinesiology classes, did an internship with the athletic training department. And I saw the difference of what actually was like a strength conditioning coach versus athletic trainer.
Yep.
And being an athletic trainer is it's a very intense, like very demanding job for the money that I was looking to make compared to what you could make at like physical therapy, or like a lot of my friends wanted to do PA. So I was just kind of like, I don't want to do athletic training. And so I was like, all right, I'll do physical therapy because that's what most of the other people were doing. But in the back of my head, I was like, I just want to train people. And so I did all these internships with like other physical therapy clinics and stuff. And it was just boring, bro. It was so boring. It was good to learn, but I couldn't just sit there and watch someone do like a really slow movement for an hour straight. You know what I mean? I wanted to be out there, like seeing people move, like really move. So I think I'm right where I wanted to be, honestly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because you've trained like athletes very early on. I feel like for a lot of people, they want to get to a place where they then train athletes, or it's like athletes and celebrities are like the two goal clients that a lot of people have when they get into the training industry. And then they realize that like they're the two hardest people to manage, and the biggest stress on your like persona and well-being for the smallest return. So you train athletes at a young age in Miami, right? Pretty much like right out of your degree.
Yeah, a couple of years. So I was training at Boston sports clubs for 3 years before I moved to Miami for a summer. And I was at this Performance Institute facility that was called Bomarito's Performance. And they had like Odell Beckham Jr. was there, Jarvis Landry, Von Miller, like most of the big names in football would go either there to Texas or to Exos in Arizona. And I think there's one here too.
There's one in San Diego,
yeah. So a lot of the guys were over there and I was like, this is going to be awesome, but it was unpaid. So but I was like, all right, so maybe I can get in and get a job here, which they actually offered me a job. But when I found out how much the trainers were making, I was like, wait, why would I uproot myself to go? Well, I would have done it for the love of it, just to learn and just because I loved being in that atmosphere, but I would have been making way less money than I was as a personal trainer with the general population. With general population is so much less stress. I didn't realize how easy we had it until I went to the collegiate and elite professional athletes. So
what's the most challenging part for you in that setting? Because I never had an opportunity to work inside like an athletic facility where you're really alongside top level talent. But when you're in a place with like Von Miller, Odell Beckham Jr., the biggest names in the NFL, what was it about that experience that made you want to look elsewhere?
So I was actually planning on going back down, but I just didn't have the money to do it. I was going to save some up and then go back down, but it didn't end up happening because I got promoted again at Boston sports clubs. But the stressful parts were probably more due to the fact that I was an intern and we had to be on the field at 4:30 in the morning. It's 80 degrees out and the sun's not even up yet. And you're sweating because of the humidity.
Right.
You had to set everything up. You had to make sure all the players had the right meals. You had to make sure everyone was checked in right. And it was just like a lot of the logistical stuff that needed to happen for the facility to run well. And then after that, you'd be there like helping to train the athletes and making sure you know exactly what everyone needs to be doing. And then one of the most stressful parts is just being a young guy, still like just getting into like that, arena. I didn't know everything and I didn't think I knew everything. So if like one of the athletes asked me a question like, oh, how much should I be doing on this? Or like, how's my form here? I'd be like, well, yeah, it's good. Like and some guys like, they don't know the difference. And some guys will ask you just to test you. Like
Right.
Frank Gore was one of those guys. Like he was going to test you if you're going to work with him because they obviously like some of these guys just want the best trainer out there.
Right.
So just not knowing everything and still being thrown in the fire was probably the most stressful part. And I think with anytime you're learning anything, the frustration aspect of learning and doing it wrong is the only way we can learn. So that's
Right.
why I think that experience was so valuable.
Yeah, it's tough. You need guidance and mentorship in any situation because otherwise you're truly like out on your own, like you can understand as much as you can understand about kinesiology, biomechanics, the body, your whatever certification you've done. But when it really comes to the application, it's
Different.
new when it's new. You haven't done it. And that
Right.
alone can take away the confidence necessary. You think about any sport that you play, and when you play it, the longer you play it, the more confidence you have doing it. The more confidence you step up to the plate, you'll shoot a shot that you wouldn't shoot otherwise, kind of thing. But in the beginning, it's you don't want to do anything wrong. I remember when I did my practical assessment, even at Equinox, not even with like professional athletes, it was with Aaron. And I looked him up beforehand and I was so freaked out to go into the assessment because this dude was 6'2", chiseled from stone. And I'm like just past my 70% on my exam or whatever that you need to pass. And I'm going in to talk to this guy like, man, what am I doing here? What am I actually doing here? Like my palms are sweaty on my steering wheel. But you build confidence, when you go, you get more reps, you get more clients, you deal with different situations, and it lends itself to becoming better at it as you do it, kind of thing.
Yeah. It's kind of nice to hear that someone like you was nervous at some point because you're probably, I've known like a few very, very good trainers. Like you're top 2 and you're probably number 1. There was
I was
one
like,
other,
who's number 1, dude? No.
there's one other girl who was, she's almost exactly like you. She was like a semi-pro football player.
Damn.
She was a beast. She was a quarterback and she was one of the best, smartest, most calculated, organized trainers. And I was her manager. And I basically looked to her for helping manage the whole thing because she was so good at what she did.
That's awesome.
But to hear that, where you started and to where you are now, it's like, it could give anyone hope.
Dude,
to know that you can be so much better.
First of all, thank you. I really appreciate that. Second, I actually declined the position. They called me and offered the job. And I said, I was so nervous to start because I didn't know what I was doing. And then 2, I had like $500 in my bank account while I was working at Enterprise Rent a Car. And my manager at the time, who preceded you, was like, you'll figure out the money. And I'm like, figure out the money, dude. You guys are giving me 15 hours a week on a minimum wage salary. I'm like, do the simple math, dude. It's not figure it out money. I'm like, yeah, I'm not making rent. And I don't think you're going to pay my rent. And he was like, just trust me on this one. Like, take the job. You're going to do fine. You'll figure it out. And I called my mom and I was like, hey, should I do this? And she's like, you can do it, but like, we believe in you. We love you. But if it doesn't work, she's like, I can't give you money to figure it out. And I was like, fuck it, dude. But sometimes you got to do that, you got to jump. What's the situation in your life where you were faced with that, like sink or swim?
I feel like recently it's been a lot because when I was out on a cross country trip with my best friend Hella. He was running across America from Huntington Beach to New York City. And
so you had supports, not like straight, right? I mean, you have like vehicles that go with you and like medics and stuff.
So he
No.
was running, I was driving the RV, and
Yeah.
his girlfriend, now fiance, was in a rental car driving about 2 miles per hour behind him the whole time. And
Oh
that's
my
it.
God.
Like, we didn't have any, like, that was it. We had to be our own medical support. We had to be
Damn.
like our own, like, cooks, nutritionists, like everything. His girlfriend did, I mean, his fiance did most of the grunt work. And it was an amazing experience. But going into it, I was just like really hitting my stride with my private business,
Yep.
and I knew, a lot of the people might not come back. I'm only going to be able to do so much while I'm doing this cross country trip,
Hmm.
and I probably won't be making that much money. And I still have rent, I still have car payments and all the bills. I didn't find a sublet or anything like that. So I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna have to take a leap of faith right now and just figure it out.
Yep.
Spent all my money on the trip. And then when I got back, it was like, all right, so I have no money and I have rent coming up and a car payment and all my bills. I got to figure this out. So I don't know, I just kept my head down, and I don't know how I did it, honestly. I just got lucky a lot, I think. I got very lucky, but it all worked out.
What was that experience like? I mean, that's a trip. Like, this dude's running across America. That's ludicrous.
Yeah, it was crazy to hear him want to do it, but
Yeah.
to actually see him do it it just blew my mind. I didn't know how he was. Have you ever run 20 miles or
Dude,
25
the
miles?
most I've ever run in my whole life, and I mean whole life, is 15.2. And I did it out of pure boredom in the pandemic. And I don't know, it took me a couple of weeks or whatever to like build up some volume, but it was from the hip. I just kind of did it and I
Hmm.
was throttled. I mean, my legs were like
It's
whooped.
your feet, your legs, your back, everything is like
Yeah.
working. Everything's working. And so for him to be able to go out there and do an average of 36 miles every day, some days
What?
50 miles, some days even more than 50. I think he had a day where he did like 51 or 52 miles.
Dude, what is
And
this guy eating?
bro, he's completely vegan, and his girlfriend was fiance now was cooking everything. It was like it switched throughout the course of the whole trip. So it first started off as like maybe some oatmeal in the morning, rice with avocado, olive oil. He had to get his fats in,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Bagels in the morning, and then whatever he wanted to eat at night. But his taste buds would like change because he had to eat so much that he would just get sick of food. So it
So
was
is
a
he
constant.
sorry to interrupt. Is he
No, no,
eating
you're good.
I mean, how big is this dude? Like, is he
He's
5?
he's 5'9", 160 when we started.
So
I think
he's
he's
eating
about
like thousands of calories a day
like at least 5,000 calories a
of
day.
pretty much whatever you can get your hands on at that point. Granted,
Exactly.
within the confines of being vegan, right? But
Exactly.
whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
So at night he would have like a smoothie with a whole bunch of ice cream, Oreos, like a little protein in there, and like it would be like probably 1,000 calorie shake right before bed. And just to know, okay, so there's the eating part of it, then there's the sleep part of it, which is so important. We all know for recovery, like you have
Yep.
to sleep well if you want to recover well. And eating right before bed probably isn't going to help you sleep that well. So he
Right.
wasn't sleeping great. He was probably getting 4 or 5 hours a night and then going out and doing the same thing. And he was doing it on injured ankles, knees, hips. Like, it's just crazy, like, to see him actually get it done. It's insane. And the finish was nuts.
What was your role in that besides a friend?
So I was driving the RV. I was making sure everything in the RV was taken care of. I was like keeping it clean, changing the sewer tank, making sure we had fresh water, stuff like that, the fun
Nice.
stuff.
Yeah.
And then at times I would massage his legs or massage his feet or stretch him out where he needed. But outside that, like, there wasn't really much I could do for him because
Yeah.
you're just gonna, anytime you stretch, you're just gonna go out there and recompress everything that you just stretched out.
Right.
So I was just there for whatever he asked me to do, honestly. And I just wanted to be out of the way enough for him to do what he needed to do, but
Yeah.
helpful enough to facilitate him finishing the job. So that's really all my goal was.
Did that motivate you at all to do anything insane like that? I mean, that's insane. That's insane.
I don't know if I'll ever do anything insane like that. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't call myself a runner at all. Not that I'm not a big fan of running. I just don't really run. I'd rather like go play basketball or box for cardio or something like that. But it did inspire me to, just do what you love as much as you can, and like really commit to doing what you love, whatever you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually the recipe to finding sustainable happiness and fulfillment in life, is finding a way to do what you love while helping other people at the same time. And I think he's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's easy to say that, and it is tough to do that. Like, especially, I mean, living in a city like Los Angeles, just your exposure to wealth and like the furthest degrees of it, it's nonstop. You pull up to an intersection and there's $10 million at the intersection just in cars. It's crazy. What you're around. But it does seem, in addition to just what you hear all the time, like money doesn't equal happiness, but that it really doesn't. And actually, those that have significantly excess amounts of money, maybe there are opportunities to experience happy moments, from like flying to more places, eating at nicer restaurants, going to more concerts, sitting in better seats, like whatever the list of things is. Those opportunities might be greater, but are they actually bringing like true clarity and happiness in that moment to that person? I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah. After, as personal trainers, we talk to so many people. We get close with a lot of people. We figure out what they want for their body, which usually is something related deeper to what they want inside, like something like self-conscious. And that always comes out, and you just see patterns in people. And the people that I've noticed that are trying to use material things to fill that void of sadness, it never works out, because they get the thing, whatever it is, maybe it's the car or the house, and then they automatically it's nice for a little bit, that they get used to it, and then they're looking for something else to like fill that void immediately after. So I don't think anyone's happy all the time. And I don't think being poor is the answer to happiness. No. But you just have to know that being happy is not going to come from something external. But I think to make sure that I think it goes back to what we were saying about controlling your reactions to things. That's where your happiness is going to come from, is the awareness to not be influenced so much by your external environment.
Not only that, but like happiness it's an experience. It's not
it's moment to moment.
Right. And with the experience of happiness, there's the opposite. For every action, there's a reaction. There's sadness too, but it's getting to a place where like experience sadness, welcome it. It's part of the human experience. It's part of going through your day, and you're going to experience happiness as well. And you being able to navigate those two things and not let one throw you in either direction becomes so important, because on the other side of it, if all you're doing is chasing happiness, you're not going to get it. Period. Whether you're
always going to be chasing.
Yeah. No matter who you are, you could be the most seemingly enlightened person in the world. It is not constant. It is like a thought. It's like a car on the freeway. It comes and it goes. There's no control over it. But learning how to be like, go through that ebb, go through that flow, and still come out on the other side with a level head, aware of what's going on. I think that's the most important thing.
I think I could agree with that 100%. And just focusing on the process of what you're doing and what you can control in that process, and being happy that you're in the process. It's almost like the happiness is actually like biological. So I've been learning a lot about dopamine and how Andrew Huberman has this Great
Yeah,
podcast. I don't know if
great.
you listen.
Super
Amazing.
awesome. Yeah.
So I've been learning so much from that about like being process driven is actually going to give us the energy to keep driving no matter what happens, versus having a goal in mind for the future and having these great expectations for it. Your dopamine levels are getting higher and higher when you have these amazing expectations for something that you're trying to get to, like that goal that you're trying to, excuse me, goal that you're trying to reach. But if the actual event of reaching the goal does not surpass the anticipation on a dopaminergic level, you're going to have this huge disappointment factor. And it's going to be even harder later to get that dopamine to go back up. So no matter what, with anything, there's going to be like the rise and fall, right? Rise and fall. You achieve something, and then with dopamine, I think what he was saying is that there's a opposite. Anytime we feel pleasure, we feel an equal amount of pain. Like you were just saying earlier, there's a two sides to every coin. So nothing's always going to feel good, but to know that it's happening on a biological level can help you navigate those moments of lowness and just know that, okay, this is a natural biological occurrence. Let me just keep my head down, still focus on the process, even though maybe I don't feel at my best today, but what is my best today going to look like? And what do I need to do to execute on my best effort today? And just keeping that process in mind helps us to keep moving forward.
I think that's very well said. It's important to enjoy what you're doing. I'll use this whole podcast as a great example, because on one side of it, it's where would you like your podcast to go? Millions of people, right? In a perfect world, millions of people listen to what your guests have to say and the conversations you create. But it's that, 50 people listen right now. But that, to me, I don't care, because this is what I care about. It's exciting to me to sit with you and talk and just have an awesome conversation. I think it's more and more rare these days to actually sit down and do this, especially with how preoccupied we tend to be with our phones and what other people are saying about us and everything. So it's a special opportunity to sit down and have a real interaction with someone face to face. And if that's the part that you enjoy and you just keep going after that, the likelihood that shows through in your work, whatever it is, whether it's your personal training business, whether it's your artwork, whether it's your film, whatever that is, that's going to be the thing that helps it grow to a place where then maybe not, millions of people do want to listen to it.
Right.
But if all you're focusing on is that number or that thing or that reach or the follower count or like whatever it is, it's going to be a miserable journey. And then when you get there, you're going to be wildly underwhelmed.
Exactly.
It's going to be like,
I feel like a lot of my decisions in the past, besides actually becoming a personal trainer, have been like money driven, like related to, okay, how am I going to make the most amount of money? And what can I do to be a billionaire one day? Or like, how can I just like live that lifestyle of just crazy wealth? And I was so focused on that with like, even with like Instagram, trying to get followers up and like trying to monetize that. Or I started a blog at one point. I did like a little bit of a podcast, but my why, a lot of those things never lasted, because the why was more monetary than like a passion for it. So it, like, if you don't have that strong why, then nothing is going to last. And I think the passion and the love for something is the strongest why you can have.
Yeah, it has to be the thing that internally keeps you excited and keeps you wanting to move forward on something. Because in addition to that, and I think this is ever true with the training industry, your excitement to get something going and your reasons for doing it are going to carry you through the beginning of it no matter what. That's what gets you off your feet. That's what wakes you up in the morning. It brings you to work every day. No matter what you do, there's going to be a stage right after that, but close to the start, where it sucks. And it's just hard. And people say no, and people don't like it, and nobody shares it. And whatever it is, your why is the thing that bumps you through that period to go like, I don't care. It doesn't matter how many people download it. It doesn't matter how many people read it, because I'm going to do 1 trillion of these, or I'm going to make 100 articles. And that passion inside is going to be the thing that like moves you along through that. Or maybe you realize you don't have that passion, and the ability to recognize it and shut something down is equally as valuable, because the last thing you want to be doing is wasting your energy in a space where you don't want to be anyway.
Right. I agree 100%. Like, what was it like for you when you like had to transition out of Equinox, or made the decision to transition out? Because actually after you left, I was like, oh, this is gonna be, maybe I should, like, you inspired me to like really like want to do it big privately. So when you left, I was like, all right, I think this is the best move right here.
It was an interesting experience, because I'd been at Equinox so long, and I have nothing but wonderful things to say about it to this day. I think it helped me launch my career. It taught me more than I ever expected. I developed great relationships. I met Lauren there. I have still wonderful relationships with the managers, and I just think it's a great environment to get yourself like actually started to where you know what you're doing. Because I feel like in a lot of other situations, they provide you the tools, but they don't teach you the way that like Equinox does. They're very invested in you becoming a better trainer, a more knowledgeable coach, and then also delivering that back to people in like a real way. So it was hard for me to leave that, because I felt stuck for a long time. I felt like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I was really worried about how I was going to make money, and that was all that I knew. And it literally took a global pandemic for me to be like, I'm not going back here. And it was I don't know, I just felt like instantaneously a need to like pivot and redirect my energy with like the Shutdown Fitness Club thing, and just doing whatever I could to stay active, to stay busy. And then when we came down here, I was fortunately still like training a bunch of my clients virtually, who were like, hey, we're not going to leave you. We need structure, and we need you to keep providing this, whatever. And I was more than happy to do that. And so I also just had a knack for like the virtual space. I really like that product, because it makes a lot of the timing issues with like showing up on time, scheduling, all this kind of stuff, just solves it, because people are at their own home, they're in their own gym, it works fine. And then it's mobile. Someone can be in, like, I've trained some clients, they're in like Egypt and I'm here, or they're in Paris and I'm here. It's just, it eliminates all the issues that we experience on the day-to-day. And a lot of those kind of like, oh, is this client going to come back? Are they not? Like, those are gone. So I think even to this very day, as I'm sitting in front of you, like there's more unknowns. Equinox became very known. I knew exactly what to expect. If I lost a client, I'd walk downstairs and I knew I could have a client within like a week. You just learn your system. It's a lot less known or it's more unknown, but it's way more exciting. And I find myself for the first time in my life putting like my heart into things, just because that's what I want to do. Like when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what do you want to do? If you woke up and there were 6 more zeros in your bank account, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I would train. I would probably do like a podcast or something. I would train jiu-jitsu, and I'd surf all the time and hang out with Lauren. And like, then I go, why the fuck aren't you doing that now? You don't need all the zeros in your account to make that happen. And so that is something that, despite the fear and the unknown, the anxiety and stuff of leaving what I knew so much, that feels super, super good, because I feel like you, my whole life, I've been doing things that I wanted to get more money. I was so worried about the money part of it. And now I feel like I'm doing things because I really love them.
Yeah.
And it feels different.
It feels way different.
It's weird, dude.
And everything, I feel like when you make that decision, just to like commit to your passion and the things that you love in your life, I feel like things just line up for you and it just works out. I feel like that's the story of the last year for me, at least. But I actually have a client that, like, he said something similar to me once. I was supposed to actually go on the Bachelorette, the show.
I was going to ask you about it. I'm so glad you brought this up. I was like, because this was either, I was like, this is a rumor. Wait, he was actually going to go. And I was like, I could kind of see Garrett on there. He's like good looking dude. He's super
I
nice.
appreciate you.
I was like, he would probably win.
The thing is, like, I was excited to go on, and
Yeah.
I was excited just to have the opportunity and just to like have
How
a
did
new
how did
experience.
that come up?
So I was about to get ready to go on this trip across the country. It was the same time,
Yep.
like 2 weeks before, someone reached out to me on Instagram and said, "Hey, I'm a casting director for a show. Would you be interested in being on this show?" I'd be like, "Oh, what is it?" And then she was like, "Oh, it's the Bachelorette, and it starts March 1st or whatever." And I was like, I can't do it. I'm going to be on this cross country trip." And she's like, "Well, just apply anyway, see what happens. And even if you don't want, maybe like you can get on a different season." I was like, "All right, fine, I'll apply, but I'm definitely not going to go on."
Yep.
And so I went through the audition stuff and sent in a video or whatever, and they did an interview with me, and then they liked me, and they did another interview with me, and then they liked me, and then they sent me through the whole process. Had to get my fingerprints done, blood tests, like everything.
Why the fuck?
Yeah.
What is for the Bachelorette?
Yeah, because I guess like if you make it to the end and you have overnight stays and stuff like that,
Oh,
you
what?
know, you don't want to be
Yeah.
spreading diseases, I guess. I don't know.
Holy shit.
Either way, I went through the whole thing. The FBI sent me fingerprint stuff, everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this could be like a really great situation for me to like get my social media up and like have a big platform afterwards and, you know, make a lot of money off that possibly. And I was like, you know, I can't leave my best friend. Like I committed to this, and I don't want to be, I don't want to look back on this situation and say, man, my best friend made history by being the first Black man to run across the country. And I could have been there, but I
Right.
decided to go on this show that probably won't matter that much. And at the end of the day, it's probably not going to,
Right.
who knows? Who knows what it could have been? But I decided to forego that because it didn't feel like it was aligned with my principles and the
Yeah.
things that I really believe in. So I can't remember if that answered the original question.
I liked it. I think it did.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, we were talking about going on The Bachelor, and I asked you how that came about, but that did answer
okay.
it. It's also interesting that you forewent that for this opportunity. Like that's kind of it's the two worlds coming together, right? It's
Yeah.
like here's this opportunity to like do what I love, be passionate about it, and experience
Hmm.
this thing you remember forever. Never will a
Mm.
day go by where you forget what it was like to be on that trip with him, where there were
It was
three of you.
crazy. Yeah.
Or do I go on this show and like it's the materialization, right? It's like the followers
Right.
and potential money from that. Would
Right.
hard to say if it would really come your way. If it wouldn't, how do you do that? What are you actually making money doing? But
Right.
it's set amount of time where it's guaranteeing you a return, whereas this was guaranteeing you an unknown.
Right.
You didn't know if you
Is
were going to get anything out of it.
right. So the way I see it is like that trip it's always going to be with me, like you said. The show, that's like all fleeting stuff. It's things that you can't, I mean, the experience maybe you can take with you, the friendships that you get from the show, maybe, yeah. Who knows what you could have got? And I don't think anyone who has gone on the show made the wrong decision, but I just had that particular scenario where I had to choose between the two. And I just saw way more value in the friendship and the experience of going across the country, which is something I always wanted to do. So I really had to, it was a really like tough decision at first, but I
Couldn't
had
you
to like,
go back to the Bachelorette if you ever wanted to do that in the future?
I guess I could reapply, but I don't think I would now, to be honest, because after seeing the show, I never really saw it before,
Yeah.
but after seeing the show and like kind of seeing what it's about, a lot of it, I don't think it really aligns with what I want in life. Um, and it feels like if I was to do it, the show is about finding love. I personally don't think I'd be able to find love in that scenario. You never know, but
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be able to take it seriously because of the cameras
Yeah.
and the way other people, like, it makes other people act as well. I wouldn't trust that it was genuine in any sense. So I don't think I would go on the show ever, or any other show, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, like, there's, if you think about all the way back to like Real World, Road Rules, stuff like
Bro,
that,
I love
you
those
got like
shows.
The Miz is a
Uh-huh.
WWE wrestler, right? So he makes it. Theo
Yeah.
Vaughn, big comedian now. So there's
Hmm.
other people that have been birthed out of that vein that like did make something. But think of
Hmm.
how many contestants there have been on reality TV show and how many people you have
Right.
no idea what they're doing, or
Exactly.
you would never hear about this. How many of them cost themselves careers, or cost
Right.
themselves opportunities from making themselves look like jackasses, from being drunk, blacked out
Hmm.
on, national TV, getting in
Right.
fights. I mean, the list goes on of dumb things that happen on reality TV show. Not to say that
Yeah.
I don't think that that's like the risk for you, right? You go on the show and you get like blackout and punch a hole
Yeah.
through a wall or something. Uh, but
That's what they want. They want
right.
people
No, they
like that.
do. They do. They want drama,
Be
right?
too I'd be too boring on that show.
Right. It would be, they want people that are going to freak out, that are going to make things
Right.
interesting so they can cut it. And you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch.
Right.
Uh, this is, I know for a fact, because I know you, that this was not your intention, but did any opportunities come out of supporting your friend on this trip?
Um, no. And I think that was completely fine with me because I didn't expect, that wasn't an expectation of mine.
Yeah.
I feel like my only expectation was to just do the best I could to help him get across country. And I expected him to get a lot of exposure, and I just wanted him to finish so he could like be that guy who ran across America. And that's what happened. So it was exactly what I expected. Really, I didn't see how I could really benefit from that. It didn't really make sense to me to like be able to see something in that. So yeah, I never really expected it at
Well,
all.
and that's a note in being like grounded and rooted in your decisions, right? Like you,
Mm,
because what would have been a travesty is if you didn't go on the Bachelorette and gave up, right? Gave
right,
up all your opportunity to then go on this to try to get it through the back door on someone
right.
else's thing, because then it
It's
never,
like
never would have worked.
right.
And
It's like
then
robbing Peter to pay Paul.
exactly. So you have this powerful experience. You go through it with your friend. You'll never forget that. Um, I want to know more about this, like him being vegan through this, right? Because,
Yeah.
okay, a little background. When I met my girlfriend, Lauren, she had been vegan for 7 years. She's no longer. I was vegan overnight for a year straight through. Like went
Wow.
to bed eating meat, woke up the next day, literally was reading every single label. You and I talk about
Wow.
that a lot at work.
Yeah.
I know that you're still vegan, right?
Yeah.
And have
Yep.
been for
For
how
4
many?
years now. 4
Right.
years.
And
Yeah.
the biggest misconception is people go, oh, you can't get, well, it's always like strength related. You can't get strong on a vegan diet,
Uh-huh.
which is
Yeah.
bullshit.
Protein,
Or you
protein.
can't achieve certain things on a vegan diet. I felt like for me personally, I've developed into more of the mindset of like different strokes for different folks. There's some people that are going to benefit a lot from being on a vegan diet. There's some people that might benefit better from being on a carnivorous diet or a blend there.
Mm-hmm.
How have you maintained that for 4 years? Is there anything that you feel like you're missing out on? Are there things that you absolutely love? Are there limitations? Like, what's that experience like for you? And what keeps you going?
There's definitely limitations. Like you can't just like travel and expect to find everything that you want to eat, or like even going home for Thanksgiving. I miss some of the food like there. Like my grandma used to make the best like turkey and stuffing and all this stuff. And you just got to be very, very careful if you want to maintain the vegan label, which I never really liked the vegan label because I looked at it when I first went vegan. I looked at it from more of a nutritional standpoint because I was not eating well at all at the time. I was having chicken patties for dinner with a
Right.
little bit of rice on the side. Like prepackaged rice with like, so many milligrams of sodium that could probably give someone a heart attack. And I was hardly eating vegetables, cereal for breakfast most days. So I was like, all right, I just need to make a change. And let me just try to learn as much as I can. And I can read about something, but I know that you can't really know it until you experience it.
Right.
And so I think the discipline that I learned from sports allowed me to stick with it. But when I first started doing it, I was like kind of, doing meat on the weekends and just not doing any meat during the week. And I'd never wanted to put a label on myself, especially in the beginning, because I knew that it would be much harder for me to stick to if I restricted myself too much.
Right.
And so it was like a month until I just gave it up completely. And outside of not eating meat, I'm not a picky eater. So I was eating like oatmeal, like 3 meals a day, and loving it. I love oatmeal. I still eat it every single morning, but I lost like 15 pounds over the first couple months. And I was like, all right, this is not cutting it. I have to actually start eating more. Right. And that's when my ex-girlfriend, we started dating, and she started cooking more and just made it way easier. And I can eat the same thing every day. So I think that's why it's sustainable for me, is because I don't have like an emotional relationship to food. I more think of it as, okay, what's this food going to do for my body right now? Like the fiber aspect, the neurological aspects. Do I have enough energy to work out? How do I feel on this diet? Like, do I feel good? Like, I'm not going to stay on it if I don't feel good.
Right.
And then, so all of that, I felt fine doing it. It was more like an experiment to start. And I just kept going because I got pretty lean doing it. And I was like, oh, this is great. I don't feel bloated. And, the science that I've read said that this might be the best decision for me.
Right.
So I just kept going with it. And then after learning the ethical implications, like with harming animals and the environment, and I feel like some of that stuff is still a little bit gray area, but since I'm not a picky eater, it's easy for me to just keep doing what I'm doing, and I have my like set routine now.
Are there moments where, like, do you ever think of, like, okay, Thanksgiving is coming up in a month, right? Are you super dogmatic where it's like absolutely not and forever? Or do you feel like there could be a time where you go home and like grandma's making Thanksgiving, you're like, damn, you know what? Fuck it. And then you have it and whatever, like no sweat off your back. It's just, it is what it is. And then you move forward, or how do you view that part of it?
So I feel like if I really wanted to do it, I would do it and I wouldn't feel guilty about it. But the reason why I don't do it is because it's the principle of it for me. I feel like if I make this promise to myself, I'm not going to eat any more meat. It's like if I say, okay, I'm going to do it once in a while now, then I just broke my own promise to myself. And I think that can translate to other areas of life. And I think that's one thing I struggled with in the past, is just keeping my own promises to myself and just making sure I do something to the fullest before I give up on it, or I put 100% effort into something. So for now, it's more of just the principle of it and just like really like sticking to something versus doing it for the vegan aspect of it. You know what I mean?
I like that. So it's almost like it's like a notch in the belt in a way, like keeping you focused on other things. It's not just about the food and it's definitely, from hearing you talk, it's definitely not about the label.
Right.
And it's more about like, you said you would do it, so you're going to do it. And therefore anything in the future that you say you're going to do, you have this experience to lean on, and you'll continue to do that until you accomplish all the things you want to accomplish, kind of thing.
Right. It's like making your bed every day. Like they
Which
say,
I'm a big fan of, by the way.
Yeah. I think it's huge. It's huge. And I never was that person until a couple of years ago. I was just like, whatever, I'm just going to get in bed later. Like, why does it need to be made? But it's the principle of it and the effect that it can have in other areas of life, the discipline to do it every day, even when you don't want to. It's kind of like working out, right? it's like the same thing. So
Dude, every day we have like our couch and our chair downstairs, that everything gets all messed up during the day. And every single day at night, I organize all the cushions and I fold all the blankets. And I hate doing it, but
it's the
I
worst.
do it, dude. I do it out of principle. It's the same thing. It's just like making your bed. I do it because that's what I do every single night. It's how I end the night. And then when I wake up in the morning and I go downstairs and have coffee, everything's organized and I love it. I love starting my day in an organized space. And if I didn't do it, whatever, it's just the couch. But then the next morning started in like, I mean, chaos is like a ridiculous word to call it, but it started disorganized, and other things do tag onto that. You know, it's just like, I don't know, trainers walk around and they always have a program. They're more organized with their clients see better results. They have better retention. People that never have a program kind of do whatever they want, show up late. They don't find success in this industry. There's a lot of little connections like that. I think the making your bed thing is hilarious because it's so true. It's just, why would you make it? You're just going to mess it up every single day.
Right.
It's not about that.
Right. It's kind of like going back to like, why are we doing the things that we're doing? Like, okay, maybe it's not for the immediate, you know, the immediate take from it, but the long-term effects that it could have. So that's like the deep why. Like your why should probably have consequences that are long-term and support those long-term goals that you have versus just the immediate, you know, instant gratification that a lot of people seem to struggle with. And I think people are set up to like have that instant gratification with social media, with like everything's so accessible. Amazon, you could press a button and have that thing at your doorstep the next day, same day sometimes, like in a few hours, like, and no one even thinks about what it took to make that product or whatever. But it's just like the instant gratification of having whatever we have today. I think it sets us up to expect instant gratification in a lot of areas of life. And that's just not the case.
I think it's so tough for a lot of clients to find long-term success is because if you're not changing the day-to-day behavior, if you're not making your bed every morning, you're never going to have a clean house. Like you have to establish principles in movement, establish habits in nutrition, because once you're not with your trainer or once you achieve whatever your goal is, if you don't have the tools in place to reinforce the new behaviors, it's never going to ever last. Dude, I've been working out since I was 15, and some days I don't like it, but I do it because I know that training is better for my body in the long run than not. That's it. And I like being able to go do shit that I like to do without my body trying to tell me I'm old or something. But there's so many days where it's not really what you want to do, but your principles and your habits are the thing that keep you doing it. And when you're starting out, whether it's a weight loss journey or overhauling the food and that you consume or trying to instill new principles and movement, man, if you don't take the time to develop your why, you will get stuck. Period.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it takes what it takes. So if you're not willing to change your lifestyle habits in order to achieve a certain goal that you want, or change what you're doing right now to like be better for the future, because really all we have is this moment right now. So if you're not willing to do those things, maybe you need to take a look at your mental models, what you value, those things, and say, do I want to change these things to achieve this goal, or am I happy with these mental models and don't want to change anything? And you have to be really honest with yourself. You have to be, because at the end of the day, if you're not willing to change those things, then you got to not expect to get to where you want to go, because you're not willing to do what it takes to get there. I just had a client actually say to me, because I was telling her, man, I really didn't want to work out today. Like I was just so sick of it. And she was like, what? I never would have thought that a trainer would not enjoy like every single workout. I was like, most trainers probably don't enjoy most of their workouts. Some of them are great. Some of them like, it's like, all right, let's get after it. But you know, it's hard work, and it's a long journey because it's a never ending journey. So even when you reach a goal, it's like you have to keep going. So like the things
how many goals have you had in fitness? I can't tell. Like, I
Can't even,
honestly don't
I
know.
can't even tell you. Exactly. I can't even
Trillion.
tell you. And you reach it and then you're like, all right, what's next? All right, what's next? But I think just knowing the long-term effects of the pain that we're going through right now is what keeps us going. It's
And
going to
I
be
mean,
better for
dude, that's
us.
true for, that goes beyond the physical. I mean, that's mental, right?
Mhm,
Like any situation that you go through that you can find a way to get through and or overcome, whether it's adversity or something difficult in your life or something, just general discomfort. Those are the things that shape your character. They're the things that change how you view and operate within the world that you live in. And so if
mhm,
you only had super cushy plush experiences your whole life, you'd be
mhm,
soft as baby shit. Like nothing would be
mhm. Yeah,
like there'd be nothing to make you appreciate what you have or appreciate where you're going.
that's a fact. And you can't learn anything that way, just staying within what you know. How can you learn something with if nothing ever changes? So yeah, I think training has taught me a lot about just moving forward, just like who the person I want to be in life and how I want to operate and things I want to do outside of work and just overall like with other like family relationships, other personal relationships with friends, like it teaches you integrity, you know,
Yeah,
and like that
sure.
discipline to just, continue to be the person that you want to be, regardless of if you want to or not, you just know better, you know?
Well, I guess I mean, this brings us to, I want to be respectful of your time. And feel like this is a great thing to end on, but uh, where do you see yourself going? Where are you headed? What do you want to accomplish in your life? And after that, let everyone know where they can find you. Shameless plug.
All right. Well, what I want to accomplish, I recently just, kind of had the epiphany, like I need to just have uncompromised service towards the people that I want to help. And I really, really do love training. It feels like play to me. And I want to, since I love it so much, like why not focus on being the very best that I can be at that, and just learning how to serve better. And hopefully that leads to me being able to not only have like a living, making income
Mhm.
off of that, but also being able to take that money and invest it in other things outside of training, like a house or stocks or whatever it might be. And just eventually have some passive income to the point where even if I wasn't training, I wouldn't need to work. So I think I'll always train, but the goal is to train when I want, as much as I want, and be able to, have the freedom to move about however I want with the people that I love. So that's really the goal. And I don't know exactly what that looks like yet, but that's what I'm working towards. And you can find me mostly on Instagram at Garrett.Jones, Garrett period JJONES on Instagram. And I'm also on Twitter here and there, not really that much, at Garrett Jones. It's spelled the same, just without the period in the middle. And I'm exploring YouTube a little bit, but it's on and off. I'm trying to find that why for YouTube. Like, why am I doing
Sure.
this? But yeah, I think that's probably the best place to find me is Instagram.
Awesome. Well, dude, Garrett, great to catch up. Of course, it's great to hear from you. I'm excited to continue to watch your career grow and wherever you take it, man. So thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate you so much for having me. Honestly, I was flattered when you asked,
Of course,
and
dude.
and I just want to let you know how much I've been inspired by just your work ethic, your the way you operate in the gym. I like really looked up to you to like try to model that so I could be as successful as possible after seeing how successful you were. So thank you
Well,
for
dude, thank you
being
so
who you
much,
are.
man. I really appreciate that. We'll see you on the next one, man.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you, man.